Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or if you're new here, welcome in. My name is Jerriies. We are going to be talking about episode 6 of The Last of Us. I didn't know what to expect with this episode. I knew that we were going to be seeing Tommy, but it was much more what I expected. I don't want to say this is my favorite episode because I feel like I've been saying that for each episode, but it was a great episode. I'm excited to discuss with you guys, but before we do, I want to let you guys know that if this is your first time watching any of my videos, I do talk about the games as well. So if you're trying to avoid any spoilers, I would suggest that you watch these videos after and then come back so that we could discuss together. I'm excited to talk about this, so let's get into it. So for these episodes, I like to watch the video and then discuss it, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. Sometimes I skip over some parts that I already know what's gonna happen, but you know what I don't skip? I don't skip the freaking intro. The intro goes so hard. I have not talked about that, so I decided that this was the time to talk about it. I hate that they had to replay Henry killing himself again. So in the game, Ellie and Joel are going through Jackson County, and Ellie has her purple jacket already on for the winter because it is colder. But here, it starts off with them already in the snow, which is a little different from the game. So it kind of worried me. I thought another group of people were gonna show up, and I was like, we're already here? But it's totally different. And we meet these amazing couples, and their names are Florence and Marlon. And Florence, who is fucking hilarious, is just sitting in the rocking chair telling Marlon pretty much I couldn't grab the gun because it was just too far away from me. And then he asks if she made soup for him, and she's just like, yeah, what's wrong with that? I'm cracking up because it's been sad after, it's just been sad. And then the comedy just kills me the first thing of this episode. I love it so much. And of course, Ellie with her sarcastic ass remark. Now, I could be getting this wrong. I didn't prepare as much as I would, and I have not reached this part in the game. I'm pretty behind. I kind of told myself that I wouldn't stress myself. I just want to play the game and have fun without having to worry about that. From what I remember, in part 2, there's this trick that I think Tommy talks about it with Ellie. Like, say if they needed directions and they have two people who are part of like the Fireflies or some sort of like obviously the opposite side of them, they would have one person tell them what they need, like where they need to go, directions, whatever the case may be. And if the second person got it wrong, they would just end up killing them both. So it was almost like a test. I could be explaining it totally wrong. I'm like 95% sure that was from part 2. I love it because, one, it shows you how there can be people who can live apart from all the chaotic areas that are happening, but they could be so disconnected on what's going on. So when Florence talks about how they're firefly people, like they're fireflies, as much as she's being sarcastic, she actually has no idea that there's like different groups of people, and they're called the Fireflies. And now as they're talking about how if they go past a certain river, there's like pretty much warning signs of like bodies being around and just kind of like no trespassing. So I'm like worried. I'm like, oh my god, are they already introducing the group of people that I think they're gonna introduce? And then I absolutely freak out even more because Joel is stalling and he's hunched over holding onto his chest. And my friend goes, wait, what's wrong with him? And in my head, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with him. He doesn't have any issues except for later. And that's like, obviously I'm talking about him getting stabbed. And so I'm like very confused. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? Is this because he's like getting old? Like they're putting more realistic issues to Joel, how like, he can't hear, etc. He's really trying to act like his age in this show, and that's including possible heart issues. God, and I love the shots that they've took while Ellie and Joel are walking through the wilderness together. It's just so beautiful. I found out later in the episode when Joel is taping his boot that it's because it's falling apart. I mean, he's probably had these boots for maybe possibly 20 plus years. So these bad boys are falling apart, and him going through the snow and everything, it's just not any better. At first I thought it was for friction or, you know, so he doesn't slip around, but I mean, I have no idea. I'm just making these like guesses. I also very much enjoy this episode because I feel at this point they already see each other as family. And Ellie talking about, you know, what's going to be happening later after all this hypothetically works. I feel like Ellie's asking it as like we, as in like me and you, what are we gonna do after this? It just reminds me of like the little subtle things that Joel does or says to Ellie. It reminds me of my relationship with my dad so much. When Joel goes on and talks about how after he wants to pretty much like have a farm and raise sheep. The official podcast of The Last of Us, Craig and Neil are talking about Ellie and Joel's passions, what would have happened and what would have they pursued if this outbreak did not happen. And Joel, you see most of the time when he's not fighting people, he's either singing or playing the guitar, and that's what he wanted to be, was a singer or guitarist, and he wanted to be a father. He wanted to raise Sarah. And Ellie, I think it's so fucking cute that they brought her talking about being an astronaut. It's a big part of the second part of The Last of Us when Joel and Ellie are together and it's her birthday. It's the try not to cry because part 2 is pretty harsh on the emotions. But it's the sweetest thing that you experience between Joel and Ellie. And I did hear it's really cute how the voice actor for Ellie in the game, Ashley Johnson, they wanted to include a little bit more of her personality in the game, and she really loved space. That's what Neil brought into Ellie throughout the game, is that she loves space so much. And I thought that was really fucking cute. I also like how vulnerable Ellie could be around Joel, that she can talk about her failure or her fear of trying to help Sam by just giving him blood. And it kind of shows the innocence of it, of like she doesn't really know like the process of how vaccines are made. It's cute the fact that Joel's not judging her for that and dumbing her down about it. But as Joel was giving her a little bit of shit after she was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, we. But at the very end, he's like, you should dream about sheep ranches on the moon. He put their dreams together. I missed that the first time I watched it. It's so cute. So when Ellie and Joel reach the dam, they actually meet Tommy, and they're working on the dam. So I'm excited. I'm like, okay, cool. They're not going to get in trouble. They're going to be seeing Tommy, and everything's good. And now, as Ellie is saying, shit, are we at the River of Death? I'm stressing out now that I see a shit ton of people on horses. And I'm like, wait, this can't be the people that they meet soon. Like, they meet later in the snow when Joel's hurt. I my timeline with the game isn't like as fresh as I want it to be. So I'm wondering who the heck these people are, and I'm hoping that they're not hunters as well. I think this is the first dog that we meet in the show. And now that I'm thinking about it, the dog looks so similar to Bear. I know that's not... Bear is Abby's dog in The Last of Us Part 2, but it's so crazy how they look very similar. It wouldn't make any sense, but I thought it's so cool that they added a dog similar to Bear. And now I'm worried as hell because can they smell the infection on Ellie even though she's not fully infected? When someone comes up to Joel saying, what's your name, after he's saying, I'm looking for my brother, I already fucking know that's Maria. And yeah, they did it. They freaking brought Jackson into this episode. I'm mind blown. I'm so shocked and curious to see what we're going to be seeing next. It's just so crazy how spot on it is from part 2 to the episode. I don't know why it's always a shock to me, because I should know by now that how good this game adaptation is, but man, it's so fucking good. And it's so cool because in the beginning of part 2, not the very beginning, but when they are in Jackson with Dina, they play a little snowball fight game in like this playground area. and they show where all like the snowmen are built. There's like a little playground area, and it's so cool. I want to note that Tommy's jacket, it's so good. And in the game, they do seem a little excited when they first see each other. Tommy runs in to hug Joel, but in the episode, Joel is just so happy to see Tommy. And I didn't realize that Tommy's actually wearing the same outfit as he is in the game as well. Dude. And when Ellie and Joel are eating in the cafeteria, in the game, the first thing that they kind of talk about it to Ellie is, you know, what are you doing here? And then Maria goes, are you hungry? And she goes, yes. When she's like chowing down on this food, someone's spying on her. And I swear to God, it looks like Gina. And I'm not the only person who thought the same. I mean, if they're already in Jackson, they are showing all these Easter eggs, like these little hints of part 2. I mean, why not tease us, you know, and show us a little bit of who Dina's gonna be. And I love it also, they were talking about how like Ellie is just so aggressive. And I mean, she usually is, but she's more protective now of Joel, and it's so cute to see. Also, it's funny as fuck because when Joel says, you know, can we have just like some one-on-one time with family, he doesn't excuse Ellie, but he excuses Maria, and Maria goes, well, you know, I'm kind of your sister-in-law. In the game, they come up to the dam where they're working on, and Maria was going to blow off Joel's head, and Maria was mentioning that it would be funny and all since Joel is her brother-in-law. It is cool that they are talking about how there could be ways of like a healthy community. And bitch, you fucking already know that I screamed when I saw Baby Shimmer. Baby Shimmer. Shimmer is the horse that Ellie has in part 2. I love this episode. Nope, I'm gonna love every episode, so you'll hear it a lot from me. It's funny when they're sitting at the bar and Joel's just like, it's been a long time. And it's funny how Tommy, I know he's the younger brother, but he looks the exact same. He hasn't aged one bit. And he does mention that same line about getting older, just like in the game. It is interesting that Joel didn't mention Tess dying. I mean, it isn't brought up in the game, but it reminds me of when Tess was asking about Ellie entering the mall when she got bit. She didn't mention Riley at all. And in the game, when Joel's talking about how Tommy should take Ellie off of his hands, Tommy 100% disagrees. But it's not because that him and Maria are pregnant. I think it's more of just trying to get the point across to Maria. And it does irritate me a little bit. Joel does bring this up from the game as kind of assuming that it's because of Maria. But I don't understand why Tommy just couldn't signal to Joel, hey, I found this commune. I can't connect with you any longer, but I'm okay. Tommy says that he had to like obey their rules if he wanted to stay with them. I don't know, maybe like the only thing was that like they didn't want any more people to come up. I guess that's a possibility, but it's like your brother. Like, wouldn't you want to let him know that you're okay? And during Joel's other panic attack, after he talks to Tommy, he sees the back of what he thinks is Sarah's head and how she goes up to a younger kid, and he's kind of seeing how his life would be if he possibly didn't lose Sarah. She hears the commotion of Tommy and Maria arguing, and mostly it's because about her. And so she runs away, and pretty much hides in this house and is reading a diary. And this is the same house in the same exact room. I really do like the fact that they bring up issues that doesn't really get talked about in post-apocalypse shows and movies about how women and, you know, a natural thing like their menstrual cycle, how they deal with it. And I love the clothes that Ellie gets changed into, because that is the outfit that she wears when the weather starts getting colder, which is the purple striped jacket. I didn't mention this, but I love who plays Maria. I believe her name is pronounced Rutina Wesley. The first time I saw her was True Blood, and I loved her in that show. Also, the little memorial, I knew it was the death of someone, but for some weird reason, I didn't see Sarah's name, and I was like, oh, maybe her miscarriages? I come to find that it's her son before the outbreak, and Sarah. I believe in the game, it's assumed that Maria doesn't like Joel because of what Joel did with Tommy back in the day. It's more clear that Maria is a little wary of Joel and is wondering also why Ellie is with him, because she can also pick up his tendencies or bad habits. I just love how Ellie is so defensive and protective of Joel. It's really cute. Then we find out when he's talking about how fearful he is about what's been happening to Tommy, we find out that he's actually having panic attacks. It literally fucking killed me when Joel talks about how much he feels that he's been failing. I mean, he lost Sarah. He lost Tess. He's losing his purpose, and he's just so afraid to lose it again that he's having these panic attacks. It's just so sad that he even dreams about losing something, and that he's even failing in his sleep. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's felt the same way. Maybe not as intensely, but definitely to the point where I'm even dreaming about it. I know manipulations are very negative. It could be a negative word. People view it as being negative. But for him to say he knows that he would kill her, but this is Tommy's chance to bring his kid into the world and to a better world, because if this vaccine were to happen, it wouldn't be this crazy life that this kid's gonna be growing up into. And I don't like how he phrased that to Tommy, to kind of push him to do it or suggest that he's like the best fit. I just also don't understand why they both can't do this together. I felt the same way in the game as well. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Joel was kind of being a little bit manipulative, or do you think he just really needed help and is kind of hoping that his brother can help him? Now, Tommy is younger, right? Tommy's younger. Tommy knows the way. And he has said to Joel that every time his men go out there to the school or towards the school, they always come back. So it's kind of almost like he needs this relief. Maybe. I don't know. I'm watching this again, guys. And Tommy kind of just goes to this like realization, while Joel's saying this, he like looks up and I swear he like smirks like, you motherfucker, you got me again. You got me doing the things that I can't think for myself, that I'm highly influenced by you. So that's why I kind of feel like there's like some sort of manipulation. I know most of the stuff that he had to do is because, or not had to do, but he thought he had the responsibility to do because he was the older brother and that he wanted to be protected. And that's all he knew. He never really thought of like his brother maybe having any ideas or better ideas, etc. In the game, I think he isn't influenced by what Joel is saying because he straight up says no, but then feels bad later and tries to talk to Maria about dropping Ellie off to the Fireflies. The decision is kind of influenced by Maria, where she doesn't want Tommy to do this at all. So it is a little different. The part where Joel finds Ellie in this room is different from in the game. You have to go through this residential area, and then you find her up in this room reading a diary, which from what I know from all the Last of Us fans, I thought it was a very deep and the most intense scene of the game. I had a huge feeling that they had to bring this in the episode, right? They had to bring this in the season. But I felt that they had to do it so on point to the game that if they didn't, a lot of fans would be disappointed. And I love the fact that even the actors knew how important this scene was to the people who played the game, to the fans. Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie, was mentioning that she would even dream about not being up to standards with this episode when she's acting it. It's a pretty high fucking bar to do something that's already been done. How can you be up to that standard? I mean, obviously, to be the better of the best is to have not only the writer of the video game, but also an award-winning director direct this episode. You haven't been following my series on this. I talk about how often you see the giraffe in the game, and I love how they also try sneaking it into the show as well. And I feel like it's so parent of Joel to assume what's best for his quote-unquote like daughter, because by this time he cares so much about Ellie that he doesn't want to fail her. My parents do this, where they assume that certain decisions are best for me. And fuck, when she goes, "What are you so afraid of?" and goes, "I'm not her, you know." And I'm like, Ellie, you crossed a fucking line. Even to the point where Ellie goes, "You know, I know what loss is," and Joel obviously just shuts down everything that she's ever felt, even though she's younger. Like, no matter what age you are, loss is a loss. People may be handling it differently, but you're still going to be feeling in some way how others feel when they lose something or someone. It's so sad when Ellie's waiting to leave, and when, you know, she hears that knock on the door, she's a little bit shocked because she was hoping that the discussion Joel and her had the night before, that he would be the one to open the door, even just to say bye. But to see that it's just Tommy, I think she was a little disappointed and sad. And of course, I love the fact that Joel was there with the horse, ready to get Ellie on the horse and continue their journey together. But I love how Ellie was still so defensive because she's still so hurt about the night before. I also thought it was funny when Joel was like, "You know, I was here like 30 minutes ago, you know, on my way to steal one of these horses." And Tommy's like, "I would have gave you one." And I love, love, love when Tommy hugs Joel goodbye, or, you know, kind of like, "See you later." He mentions there's a place for both of you, and Joel goes, "Counting on it," because that's where they end up in part 2. Even hinting by saying, "Can I borrow that hunting rifle?" instead of "Can I have that hunting rifle?" Because they're banking on coming back. But also funny because he mentions that Maria took his gun. Not really off topic, but horses' ears look so soft. I've ridden horses before, but I've never touched their ears, and they look so soft. And it's so cute. He's teaching Ellie how to shoot this rifle while he finds another way to the other side, or kind of kills all these people so that they can clear this area, and trusts her to shoot while he's doing this. It was episode 4 where I was mentioning that, you know, Joel's slowly kind of teaching Ellie certain things, and he's not just shutting her up or not just like tuning her out. He's kind of feeding into her curiosity now. But now he's like sharing more things about his life and how like past life, like what he did as like a job back then before the outbreak, and, you know, what football was. And it's so cute when Ellie, like, you know, is hearing Joel talk about all the fun things that he liked to do before the outbreak, and like what he just liked to do, and she puts his head on his back. It's so cute. And it is really cool that they show up to the university. This is where they find out that the QZ is no longer here, which happens also in the show. There are still hunters, and while they are trying to take all these hunters down, Joel falls from, I think, like the second story into some sort of pipe that's like sticking out, and that's how he gets hurt. In the show, you see the hunters try to fight him with a bat, which is interesting. I keep saying it's funny when there's always something not funny about it, but in the game, that's what a hunter would do. That's what they would have as a weapon, is like a bat. Joel's talking about college and how the students are usually just trying to find out what they want to do with their lives, but really it's kids partying and trying to find themselves. And my friend was like, "Wow, yeah, no, that's totally true. That's what I did in college," which is true in your 20s. I mean, I'm a little bit older than that. I still feel like I'm in that phase. And it's super cute because finally Joel mentions to Ellie that he always wanted to be a singer since he was a kid. And I found out later that they did take that idea from the voice actor for Joel of the game. He also really loved to sing and play the guitar, and that's what Joel does. And I don't know what's more intense, Joel fighting off a hunter and literally getting a piece of the bat stuck in his lower abdomen, or falling on some. I don't know. They both sound fucking awful, but Ellie in the show and in the game try, to keep Joel on this horse while they ride away. And or if you haven't played the game, you have no idea what's going to happen, and you are deathly worried that Joel is going to die, because that's a pretty intense, deep wound, and Joel ends up pulling it out of his body and not leaving it. I don't know. You're not supposed to pull out something. If you're stabbed, you're supposed to immediately find, some sort of help. But I mean, I don't know if that's even possible for them. So maybe Joel thought that would probably be the best thing to do, is to remove the bat. I remember seeing this in the game, and I remember being so fucking scared for Joel, because first of all, it's winter. It's cold as fuck. And second of all, it's Ellie. Like, am I just gonna die and I like that's the end of the game? Or is there someone who's gonna save us? But then you find out later you're going to be playing Ellie for a little bit, and that's even more intense. But also, I think, well, because I played the game, I know it's not going to happen. He's not going to die. But I feel like for the viewers who are, seeing Joel so scared that he's going to die and not be able to reach the fireflies to give to Ellie, it's kind of like coming true. So I feel like it's almost like the viewers who haven't played the game even more worried. And that is the end of the episode. I try really hard not to watch the trailers, but I have a lot of people who are talking to me about the show, so I already know what's gonna happen. It's going to be the episode of Ellie and Riley, and this is also gonna show how Ellie saves Joel. I'm pretty excited to see this, because also there is someone that Ellie does meet also trying to save Joel. So I'm wondering if that's going to be part of the episode as well. We'll have to find out and see together. Thank you guys again so much for watching to the end. It means so much. And I also go live on Twitch. If you guys are interested, I love to play a lot of horror survival games like The Last of Us, Resident Evil, but I also like playing cozy games like Stardew Valley and Dreamlight Valley. So if you guys are interested, I'll put the link down below. I will see you in the next episode. Take care.